If you're looking for action, we got one heck of a series underway here. Tied up 1-1 as HeroesHearth versus Octalysis. Octalysis trying to make their claim at being one of the best in North America. HeroesHearth trying to make sure that they remain #1. Win or lose, they would still be that, but in your minds, dropping to Octalysis, there's always that respect factor and the pride factor that these teams have.
Yeah, and I think the best way to look at this, right, is because our standings since MSB are always going to matter, right? And HeroesHearth has been that, I mean, going undefeated in the first part of phase #2 puts them in a position where it's like, you're very likely to be that auto BlizzCon qualifier. But if Octalysis comes out and, you know, maybe for the rest of the series is very dominant in the rest of North America, you look at the playoffs and you just go, that's it. They're going to be the ones who take it. So it still very much does matter here on that, you know, in your heart here interpretation of where North America lands.
In our hearts, I'm hoping for a plentiful series of games here. Game #3, going to Battlefield of Eternity. Octalysis opting for that first pick. So HeroesHearth taking us to BOE, which now brings up Hanzo into question. Solo support, Abathur into question. There's a lot of flexibility around this. Octalysis, during phase #1, they were one of the few teams willing to go to Battlefield of Eternity. They've made a couple of roster changes since then. We saw some hard Sergeant Hammer plus the Li Ming games, but they are a different team now than those old rosters.
And I think you just listed all the heroes that I need to be talking about here from my point perfectly. Is going to be Crowan here. Now on the Hanzo, on the Li Ming. I think this is going to be a good moment because on a battleground like Battlefield of Eternity, where those gaining that high of value, we don't see that much Li Ming coming out from Octalysis as of late, and Crowan is by far one of the highest performing Li Mings that we have. So I'm starting to wonder, is the Li Ming going to become a problem so much so in this series that we see Octalysis have to ban to it? Normally you'd be like, that's not that big of a problem, but when you're a team that comes in with the wild draft strategies the same way and you're catering to your opponent, you've already made the first mistake because that is the goal of setting them off in the draft in the first place. And that is a great question that is coming to light here throughout this series.
It's going to be fun to watch Octalysis with the first ban, first pick. Sergeant Hammer, Hanzo, Li Ming. If any of them are let through, highly contested, unlikely to make it to the second ban phase. So does either team have something draft-oriented that they want to shake up? And Octalysis, they do not want to deal with the Hanzo. See if that leaves HeroesHearth the burden on their side to maybe ban the Sergeant Hammer.
You would think, just to not risk that first pick opportunity for Octalysis after the Hanzo ban, even more so if this was to be the Li Ming, you would expect it 100%. But it does leave up things like the Maiev in that type of situation. Genji as well. This is one of the battlegrounds I personally feel like the Genji can really stand out. Another hero we haven't talked about yet, but this is a great Summerl battleground.
I was thinking the same thing.
Roku might bust that one out here too. Genji is going to be the ban here, so we'll find out. Does HeroesHearth want to deal with Prismat there on the Sergeant Hammer?
If not, it's more than likely they'll get the Maiev. Playmaking potential throughout the entire game with that tether.
This is a battleground where I feel like Murden does rise a little bit in value compared to the Diablo, even though Diablo is great for his individual sustain in the long run around the objective itself. Murden with that opportunity to go in the Stormbolt damage. Removing the Abathur also removes that off-lane side pressure approach to Battlefield of Eternity that things like the Summerl can tend towards. But there's the Diablo.
I think that's important because if you go Maiev, the probability of a Deckard Hammer coming out in this rotation for HeroesHearth is there. We still have Yrel to consider. Sergeant Hammer, always a threat any stage of the draft. But Yrel, Deckard, those heroes would be very much a threat towards that. Maiev, now for HeroesHearth, we don't know. Arthalon was the Maiev player. We don't know the flexibility of Talking Trees for this weekend, so it might be something HeroesHearth may not feel comfortable playing for now.
So we get ourselves the Yrel and the Deckard. Yrel, great skirmishing capabilities around the shrine itself for the early game, AoE armor and things, but does suffer with that off-lane pressure if that's something Octalysis ever intended to kind of manipulate here. And look at this. Li Ming picked up by Octalysis rather than the opportunity to move into the Hammer, but I suddenly wonder, is that enough for you to say you're going to let the Hammer through past this next ban phase if you are Octalysis, or you go, we wanted the Li Ming, and now we're going to ban the Hammer out?
Very interesting to see how they approach that. Raynor and Phoenix then come to mind. Raynor tends to have the higher priority over a Phoenix. Blaze banned out. You mentioned Octalysis does favor the Blaze quite heavily, which leaves only one hero left to pick up in that off lane. Clearly Artanis.
You know what Artanis is?
A god amongst men on Battlefield of Eternity. I'm glad you asked.
Opponent. See what I did there?
If I'm not mistaken, was it really early last year that Goku was the one that played Artanis, and it was like a tomb game, and there was like god tier swaps?
No, he's not. He's a very good Artanis. I think a lot of people
play though.
Goku has a surprising amount of characters in the offlane that he's comfortable with that a lot of people don't like. Alarak is another one that he's willing to bust out. There is a lot of weird kind of heroes in that lane that, yeah, he definitely has in his arsenal. As we get HeroesHearth moving with the Thrall and the Rainer. A lot of sustained DPS coming out from them. Also Thrall for that AoE poke. Li Ming struggles into Thrall, especially if she doesn't go into the Force Armor, which Power Hungry has been the pickup as of late.
Suppression Pulse, blinding targets that auto-attack. If only there were a couple on the side of HeroesHearth.
We'll get ourselves at Uther and Dahaka.
Close enough.
Doesn't give a major offlane advantage to either team. I feel like if anybody, it's over to the Yrel in this type of situation because Dahaka doesn't gain as much value on Battlefield of Eternity.
You mentioned the Murd, and he's still available.
I would like that. I feel like in that last slot, but the fact that he wasn't picked up doesn't look like he's going to be. HeroesHearth Esports maybe taking a book out of Tempo Storm. Sia Maev picking Arthas. It's not the first time. I believe the first region that I did see this as an immediate answer, it was either Korea or China. I was comfortable going with that, but you throw down the Warren's Cage, it's hard to team fight when you don't do any auto attack damage.
Diablo as well. Diablo comes in, has a hard time potentially walking away from that. It's interesting to just all of a sudden one weekend, we get 3 Arthas games in one day. After I don't think we've had 3 Arthas games maybe all year.
Yeah. Another thing to consider, Army of the Dead makes Li Ming hate her life.
Yeah.
Even though Li Ming can get rid of those army pretty easily, it's pretty much like imagine if Cocoon, or excuse me, Nubarak used Rewind in all of his spells like at once. Like that's how difficult it is to be able to get any reliable damage in the short term out. By that time, typically Arthas has already won that fight. Plus pairing with the armory going to be given by Yrel. I don't know. When I look at the compositions, I think I like the overall team fight of Octalysis, but I feel like a macro front going to be won by HeroesHearth here.
I just don't expect to come into a day in our current meta and have an Uther and an Arthas in the same game.
Yeah.
Uther is more of a niche style hero, comes out from time to time. Arthas, I guess he's filling a role here. Either way, we got game number 3 ready for you all. This series tied up 1-1. Both teams trying to deliver their best punch in this duel.
Well, with the Uther pickup here, you know, I'll always talk about it because Uther is one of the few supports that does have a pretty viable double heroic opportunities. Think about into an Arthas, having Divine Storm is one of the better tools. If Icebound Fortitude is used at any point on a different crowd control, then you Benediction double stun into Divine Storm. You are enough crowd control to confirm that with Arthas dying by yourself, as long as somebody else is there to make sure you get the damage out.
Yrel armor, forever insane.
Forever up.
That does help. Yrel, we've seen less Divine Steed, more into that cooldown reduction on that leap that provides that armor with that level 4 pickup. And when you're facing Maev, conceivably moving into melee range and 4 heroes. Talk about roots on roots here. Healing might not be enough, and this is where Arthas can keep. That's enough.
But the tether back is the reset.
Going to trade. But that's the part that is something to consider. You get one route, you get the follow-up route, and then Diablo has a hard time walking away. Once he has more souls, he can live in that longer, has the cooldown on his W with stuns. So long-term, I think that favors Diablo. And long-term as well, we got Crash Lightning. That is a long-term talent to stack.
It is very much so. And Prismat did a really good job of getting damage onto the Thrall. I feel like Prismat was the only reason that didn't go more sour for Octalysis. Hitting the damage onto Talking Trees, enough setting him below 10%, so we had to back out. See how that works throughout the rest of this game. as we did not get the force armor from him at level 1 either, whether or not that's something that they maybe need to use here. But we also got to consider that the upper hand of that initiation was very much in favor of HeroesHearth based on the positioning. So I look at that and I go, I'm surprised Octalysis was able to go almost dead even there. Traded with the resets. Were pretty impressive on that Maiev.
We saw Rhyme picked up in both games earlier. This time we are going into the root talent, stacking that up for Arthas. 3 stacks currently onto that Frost Presence. Once you confirm 20, it just hits everything in a line. It is so much easier to root, so he'll continue to try and stack that up. We also saw Prismat. He's been, before the recent changes with Triumvirate and Seeker, not just against the Sergeant Hammer anymore. He goes more into the auto attack style at 4. It's something that he has been more than willing to diversify on for some time now on Legion.
As we see him patiently waiting next to a Shaman camp. Cleaning up the dogs first. Dogs do more damage and hurt a lot more whenever you're getting rid of those early on. And then Octalysis will pick up their Shaman camp here. HeroesHearth, though, has gone for a double stack approach. This is not common. It's common on almost every battleground but Battlefield of Eternity. So we'll see what HeroesHearth can make happen with this double stack down below and the 4-man siege here. And if it's somehow going to be worth the decision-making as Justin initiates.
Dahaka's coming in. Dahaka has the Brush Stalker. That's the scariest part for me for HeroesHearth. Goku, see if he can land a drag onto somebody. Nice.
Got him.
There's going to be the drag. See if they can get the follow-up. Ishbu starting to take shots. There's some extra damage coming in from Prismat. That's the part that worried me the most. Not that they wanted to stack the camp, but that there was a global on the other side to quickly turn that into a 5 versus 4.
But what that did do is essentially stop the hold on. Krillin flipped over, stunned against the wall. Tether pulled back into the Hammer of Justice, and Bud says justice served as they get a kill here onto HeroesHearth Esports, and now drastically winning this race. Howling Blast ends up landing onto Buds as the scroll of ceiling is going to go down. He's going into ghost form. The question is, do they have enough heals to keep everybody else up after this point? 3-man Howling Blast from Ishbu going to further the advance of that level 1 quest you were talking about.
The lead is here for Octalysis, but without a support for a while. Nice route that's going to follow up with a charge into the tether. That's going to pull back from max value. McIntyre trying to leap out. Prismat seeing if he can get the reset. Oh! Back into that. No reset for Li Ming. That is a clutch kill at a very inopportune time for Octalysis.
Great job, though, by McIntyre, seeing the situation and able to adjust here. And with that kill, that allows HeroesHearth Esports to back out and get a defense, if you will, towards this immortal shielding. As Octalysis get the clear up, when the damage is done, the dust settles. About 50% HP onto that immortal.
Prismat did go into that bonus auto attack after you hit with the magic missiles at level 4. Maybe wish he had some help from the dominance previously. Immortal about to spawn, half shielding, still early, so should be easily dealt with here by HeroesHearth, giving their defense.
No Dahaka brush stock opportunities until at least the keep gate or fort gate goes down. And sieging up towards that fort, get a brush stock behind the fort and dive onto it. Not too much health remaining on that immortal, so I don't know if that's going to be the go-to call. And with Dahaka showing unlikely decision, Drayden moves forward. The brush stock's going to come in. Krillin gets the shadow charge. Look at this brush stock. Can he land the drag? Goku goes for it, but doesn't end up connecting there. Ishbu makes his way out.
That is a huge chunk. There's another tether. Trees is going to be there. The root in return from Deckard will lock in multiple heroes. Another root comes out. There's some armor. Some return damage coming out from Prismat. Urel's joining the fight. This is chaotic right now as McIntyre, see if he continues the track down.
Scroll of ceiling, thrown down, not going to land. Rids of the minions, and Octalysis does end up making it out there. With Urel making the rotation up, I thought that would have been enough for a confirmed kill for HeroesHearth Esports. If anybody had the, color me impressed after that, it was the retreat of Octalysis. A really well-timed Hammer of Justice from Buds again. Second one coming out from him in this game.
That got a lot crazier than I anticipated, but it was all the setup of the Maiev continuing to get that tether and then the brush stalk in. The threat was there.
Vader's going to flank. Tether. Shadow charge. Pull back. Scroll ceiling lands, but Goku with the drag. Not going to pull the trigger there. Good Howling Blast was the large reason as why you didn't see that attempt coming out from him. And the camp picked up.
Octalysis with that fort down in that top lane is the reason why we see the minor experience lead. And given the timing of that first Immortal and the potential timing of the next Immortal spawning, that is an area where Octalysis with that level 10 advantage, if it comes in, would be there. For both teams though, the Immortal is in the favorable attack position for both teams. So the one that HeroesHearth will be attacking will be on the left. The one that Octalysis will be attacking is going to be on the right. So the timing of this is going to be very important in the race department. Still 10 seconds out. HeroesHearth should be able to clear this up in time to get into the race.
But because Octalysis has the global advantage and that Shaman camp was picked up early, if they pick up the Shaman for themselves, they're going to be in a fine position here. But hold on, HeroesHearth knew that, went for the invade, going for the scroll of sealing onto Buds. He's able to make it out in time as that top camp still pressuring away. That is not the Shaman camp, it's an Impaler camp, so not as high value as the Immortals are alive. Race to 10 still being won by Octalysis.
Yeah, Urel has shown, so Octalysis, if they see an opportunity, they can pull the trigger on this. Prismat poking from over the wall will get rooted there by Ishbu. That has been fully stacked. But the poke damage coming in while Dahaka is soaking. There's going to be the flip in, the charge.
Rostok comes through. Can they land the drag? Tether brings back Ishbu. Burrow not going to be used there from Goku dead. As he gets stunned against the wall. Prismat finds himself a reset here. And now isolation used. No movement speed, no shrub to walk into there for Goku to make sure he can get the drag after Crowan. Giving a little pepper to the Immortal and Goku as they're minimizing the damage here, but Octalysis get the halftime show in HeroesHearth Esports. Still no 10 to be found, J-How.
Yeah, depending on the spawn point of this, and this is not favorable for HeroesHearth. It does allow them to get some poke in, but the damage here for Octalysis. So it's a matter of HeroesHearth minimizing the shield for the second time in a row. Prismat will look to pick up these globes in the middle with that power hungry. Generally, the time for the spawn, not exactly the most value added. Safe pathing, as HeroesHearth, you can see them waiting in the bush. See how long they stay here for the flank tread.
They're going to have to stay for a real long while. Immortal moves down. Octalysis. They know they're somewhere. Time's up, let's do this. McIntyre leaps in. Howling Blast thrown down. Talking Trees immediately gets blown up here as he is unable to survive. Buds is now the focus, trying to kite away, but Ishbu gets tethered back. Another fan of knives and traded. Gets a reset after reset. Isolation onto Raynor. And Octalysis say, you want to bring the fight, HeroesHearth Esports? We're going to finish it.
And that is going to make things go from bad to worse for HeroesHearth. Octalysis from good to better, as they will take down a fort, and with enough of this left on the Immortal, will look to take down the keep wall, maybe get some minor damage in. They have the availability in multiple lanes now with keep pressure that the experience lead will definitely be in their favor. Once another tower goes down here, it will be level 13 for Octalysis. See how aggressive they try to get with that advantage.
Flip over now onto Ishbu. Shadow Charge goes down, stun as well. Howling Blast thrown out. Damage onto the keep there, but Goku underground able to survive the hurricane of lore thrown across the board.
There's 13. That tower, almost enough experience. But the damage is done. Having that keep wall down and half of that keep, you start to open up win conditions. One big team fight, it might still be early, but if you go 2, 3, 4 minutes down, if we see another 4-man team wipe like that, Octalysis will move directly through that bottom lane if they choose to do so. Octalysis has shown themselves to be in the top with that camp pickup, allowing HeroesHearth to comfortably move in towards that bottom.
HeroesHearth pick up the camp. Goku's not going to interrupt. He actually will. Isolation. They're going for the keep. And he's trying to delay as many backs as he possibly can. The keep front wall damage actually would have been worth it if he could have gotten more than, I'm going to say 1 to 2 delays. Would have been actually a worthy trade even of the isolation, because isolation is a short cooldown. We know the objective's not going to be up in that downtime, so I actually really like the play from Octalysis, even though it seemed like a weird isolation use there. Had some big trade-ups if they did execute a little bit better.
The keep towers, with the experience they hold, can further that race towards 16, given that the next objective will spawn soon enough. There's no threat of that race. Justin, he puts down the fire stop, potentially for vision, gets that. Nice route by Ishbu. Without, oh wow, they are all in on defending this as the army is already out.
Yeah, and that's why you watch the full disengage from Octalysis, knowing that that is a massive survivability tool from Ishbu that is just not going to be available. And with Deckard being the only support on their roster, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to keep that Arthas alive. I mean, that was near frame perfect there when that penetrating round to get the disengage. Goku finds the drag onto Talking Trees. Reset is there, number one. McIntyre in the backline, though, has the Ardent Defender, can survive if necessary. The Immortal race is available. Goku burrows below, make sure not to risk anything here, and Octalysis go back towards that race.
Things continue to look up for Octalysis. This will provide small opening for HeroesHearth to get some damage in. Still a ways away from level 13. That's something that they have to consider getting into that off lane, but the lanes are so pushed out. That camp dealt with by Dahaka at the bottom. There's going to be a camp picked up in the downtime of the halftime show here for Octalysis. Spawning of this will be paramount to HeroesHearth's success.
Octalysis now looking to punish. McIntyre's the focus. Dragons up landing from Goku. Will the isolation be there? The isolation's not even necessary. It's there, but not necessarily in spell form.
My favorite part about that was McIntyre lands the dragon. He's like, I could pull you back, but this stun circle spawned right underneath you, so I'm just going to stop right here. I'm going to let this boss do the rest. The Immortal, there's going to be the isolation. That's going to be the lockdown. Ishbu trying to survive as the Worms cage out on one side. This fight is on all fronts, and Ishbu's surviving for now, but there's the drag by Goku. Prismat, no mana. Doesn't matter if he gets the reset, somehow survives here, Dre.
Yeah, and adjusting the whole time with the split up there. Prismat waiting for mana to get that Calamity, finds the reset. The dismount not there with the Heroic Cube as Rainer's Raider maybe trying to track it down.
And that camp top still.
Yeah. The top camp is now threatening the keeper wall. Drag lands on a Talking Trees. Flip over all over the place there as the burrow comes out from Goku. Prismat still low on mana. Gets the damage out, throws out an orb. McIntyre hits the drag. Goku does not miss on this. I mean, we have been talking about HeroesHearth and McIntyre's performance, but Goku has been on point here with the Dahaka drags. Jay, how?
There's this argument in... you and I talk about it. I talk to other people about it. Sometimes it's like if you were to build an all-star, who's your best solo laner? Is it Goku? Is it McIntyre? Is it Glaurung? Those tend to be the top three names that we hear, and everybody seems to have them interchangeable. But the one name that probably comes up more often than not, it's Goku, and he's making his case in this game.
He'll be on the bottom lane for now, but he will join Octalysis once the damage is probably done. Well, he's actually going to teleport a little bit earlier than expected here. This is going to be looking for lethal now with that body language. Howling Blast thrown out there by Ishbu, but he's met with a drag. Another knockback there from the Immortal. Justin tries to join in with friends. Lornado is going to be used, but the cleanse is there. Draded in a bad spot for a moment, but he's got the Warden's Cage with the Lightning Breath. He gets the Divine Shield. He gets so many reset on the Fan of Knives. Damage onto the keep is still there. It is about to drop.
See if Octalysis looks to re-engage or maybe moves to the bottom. That lane that was prepped by Dahaka. This should be a double keep play. Actually, there should be enough to hold here. Octalysis not able to make that rotation down. They went for the big play. They tried to end it. They did not get that double fort or the double keep. They would have liked to have that. They still make a big play, but in terms of decision A, B, or C, we're 1, 2, and 3. 1 is to end, 2 is double keep. 3 is, boy, I really hope we get that keep, and if not, I don't want to say it's a failure because you're still up 3 levels and you have a keep down and you can potentially poke that down, but you know they would love to have both.
Yeah, Octalysis open door C is the best way to describe that there. Boy, I'd really like to have that. They do have a window, though, to still secure that, and that is Prismat pretty much walks up to it, throws out one rotation, secures that with the 16 talent tier. Dahaka will be able to get the split pressure on the top half, too, to force like a lose-lose scenario here.
Look at the pathing. To talk about what you just said, they're taking the super long route to see if they... Oh, I thought they were going all the way down back door on the back patio there.
Yeah, they are going to be looking to do something close to that, but Ishbu, or excuse me, not Ishbu, but Justin on that Diablo knew that the camp was going to be started after nobody showing for HeroesHearth for some time, and now we see the rotation down. HeroesHearth, normally you'd be like, this is the moment to try and get the all-in, but if they do so, it is going to be devastating here. As the Lornado comes down, there's no 16 talent here. If they step out too far, expect Octalysis to just go, well, we're going to gain more than a keep out of this, maybe a couple kills to boot.
Immortal spawning 20 seconds away. Top bottom here. Always difficult when you are down that talent tier. More importantly, down 3 levels is HeroesHearth. Camp will be picked up by Octalysis as we prepare for what might be HeroesHearth's last defense in the Immortal phase.
No, at this point in time, because Octalysis failed to get that bottom keep in that time frame, there is no double lane of catapult pressure that Dahaka can put a lose-lose scenario. It's only top lane. He has been waiting there for about 45 to a minute to set that up, as it is going to be mounting with time, and eventually may look for a pick once HeroesHearth does rotate. You see Mac on the Hero, already made the transition up.
He's trying to clear that camp. Maev's on the bottom and trying to stack those waves. That will warrant a response. Dahaka is playing the long, patient approach, can brush stalk in at any moment. The longer this goes, the better for HeroesHearth to try and get back to 16. But here goes Dahaka.
But Octalysis is going to confirm a double keep minimum and threaten a backdoor. Once they threaten the backdoor, HeroesHearth responds. Octalysis gets free damage. 2 catapults are going to be building a lot of damage. Go through, they get the isolation, and Goku gets the kill onto Arthas. Divine Shield used onto Goku. Draydid's in a bad spot for a moment, knowing that he doesn't have the healing available, but then he quickly turns around there with a huge orb out from Prismat. Resets just popping off here. Critical mass achieved. 4 members of HeroesHearth go down, and now Octalysis can end this game.
Draydid looked like he might have fallen, but the control that they had there in that arcane orb that came in from Prismat, that was wild. And then he got the fan reset after that.
Yeah, but this is even a bigger deal though. McIntyre bought enough time to where, and Prismat was low enough on mana that they didn't confidently want to go for the end. It's still likely going to be GG, but there is one more initiation that exists in this game on the same talent tier.
Yeah.
So, you know, I called it his game, but actually McIntyre bought enough time. There is still this sliver initiation for HeroesHearth Esports remaining.
And Raynor just spawned, so they'll have to do it and buy time. Without that, they still have the poke of a Li Ming. So we are on a reset. Divine Shield 20 seconds away. Warden's Cage 30 seconds away. So the defensive and offensive mechanics of those heroics are not available for a while. Catapults will be mounting again in the top lane. They're not yet lethal, and it would probably take another wave or 2 before they become absolutely lethal, because it's early enough in the game. But the longer this goes on, the more threat there is. It's Octalysis' game to lose here.
Yeah, and they also can make the rotation over to secure bottom keep at any point in time. Damage on the core is now going to start come through, as that is 3 catapults. As we have said, you see the shielding taken off. Howling Blast ends up landing a little damage onto Prismat, as we see Justin flipped over in a bad spot. Gets the Shadow Charge. Isolation comes through. There's the Divine Shield and the Lightning Breath. Lasting forever there, not setting up any reset, and Diablo's first to drop. He will be back in the core second. 76% on the core, but these minions will be dealt with. That's not enough for lethal, J-How. We need one more rotation.
Uther caught on the wrong side here. He's being tracked down. There's an Arcane Orb that hits Prismat again, low on mana, but there's going to be the drag landing, trying to get the reset. We see the blink in. Calamity doesn't get the reset, and just like that, McIntyre survives, and that is a big loss for HeroesHearth. They've fallen down to 59%. Catapult starting to mount up again. McIntyre will hearth back, try and defend. This is desperation time. Can they get the kill? Can they get the follow? Talking Tree somehow survives, but that's going to be a takedown. Justin on the other side doesn't have souls. He's going to be taken down. It is getting wild, but Goku making another play.
BJ gets reeled back, and now that is the support down for HeroesHearth Esports. Draydid trying to kite away. Ishbu is now going to be the focus, but he has enough mana with that auto attack debuff. McIntyre leaping forward. Benediction is going to be used. That was used on the Hammer of Justice. Catapults are back, but that is only 2. 2 catapults is not enough at this point in time for them. Arthas makes it back, and holy cow, HeroesHearth Esports is holding on.
They didn't lose that bottom keep. The thing is still holding.
Yeah,
it's still very much in favor of Octalysis. Don't get me wrong.
In hindsight, Octalysis says, I can't help but feel like was going, remember when this was 17-13? We maybe should have taken that bottom keep.
They're going to get the tether in. We'll bring back McIntyre. Draydid, this
is
Immortal.
Only
2,000 left. I don't know if that's enough, though. That will buy time. There it is.
Hammer of Justice used. If the Howling Blast comes out, that might be a dead Uther. All right, J-House, so the biggest thing here is that Octalysis should be going to top lane to threaten the game. They can't go with the Immortal itself. They need to be threatening the game faster than the Immortal can threaten the game itself, and that's going to be free damage for HeroesHearth all through this distance of safety. But notice how nobody from Octalysis is questioning that whatsoever, so they're going to move with this.
Dread, if they don't end here,
I think that
HeroesHearth gets back into the game, and we have seen comebacks many times when you are down 2 kills.
Oh, the brush shot though.
Here it comes, Goku. There's going to be the knockback. There's reset number 1. Arthas instantly exploded. Contagion's going to land. Goku comes in, grabs another one. McIntyre, he's going to go down. Goku, make me some plays. And there we go. Octalysis will finally close out this game as the Immortal has moved to the core, but it was not without some fireworks.
Goku, from minute 1 of this game, has been making plays, but even when everything got a little bit wild, a little bit concerning here for Octalysis, he kept his cool, stepped up for the squad, and made sure that they take what seemed very much theirs, Battlefield of Eternity.
Every time I turned around, I'm like, okay, no kill happened here, so we've got focus on another area. And then I'm like, oh wait, there's another drag. There's another drag. There's an isolation. The drag that he had into the boss stun, stopping that on a dime and saying, what if I just let the Immortal get this stun? So many plays made by Goku there.
Also, I feel like Buds had a surprisingly good game there on the Uther for not being a normal game where you look at the Uther and you go, the Divine Shields, big plays, look at the Genji reset. I think he actually had a very good support game. A lot of his early stuns were at high impact moments, which is not something you typically see from Uthers without sacrificing themselves. At no point did you see that except for the one fight where his early death was the reason it stopped others too. So I feel like Buds did a really good job on the Uther.
The Arthas pick. Question mark there. We saw it work for Tempo Storm earlier. We saw the attempt here. Maybe it's the Maiev counter that teams are looking for, but in this situation, had some value, but the amount of isolations, the stuns that landed onto Arthas, not even allowing him to get full value. You mentioned if you can take away the Army of the Dead, it's where Li Ming struggles to fire skill shots through. But Octalysis, what if we can't cast Army of the Dead? What if we stun you? Because it is an ability with a cooldown once you pop that.
Yeah.
And so if you're not able to press buttons, you're not healing, and you're not. There was that one that he just kind of traced out, and I'm like, man, how did Arthas live? I think he died in the end, but whew.
Anybody who got to play way back at the original Nubarak release knows how volatile Army of the Dead can be because Locust Swarm used to one-shot it. It was a direct counter. If you picked Arthas and the opponent picked a Nubarak, that's game. That's over. Your Arthas is going to heal the Nubarak to full, and he's going to body that Arthas as fast as possible. And like when you feel how fragile the Arthas can be in those type of situations, and you're like, wait a minute, if I'm losing these are going to hurt my long sustained fight there. Didn't come to life too much throughout that game. Mainly because Dahako was hitting the drags. But I think that's even more impressive considering he was hitting drags through Army of the Dead, right?
Wild.
He also has to dodge those same minions that Li Ming does.
It's crazy.